Hi, I'm Peter Jones, Chartered Surveyor, author and property investor.
I've been talking to a number of people who want to get into property investing recently, and a question which quite often arises is, what sort of property should I be buying if I want to get into buy-to-lets? Sometimes the question is, Peter, why do you advise buying cheaper properties rather than more expensive properties? And I was talking to somebody the other day who was thinking about getting into buy-to-let, and they showed me some of the properties which they've been looking at. They showed me the estate agent's details, and all of them were really nice properties, quite high value properties. And they were somewhat surprised and maybe even slightly disappointed when I said to them, look, these properties look like nice properties, but this is not what you should be buying, because they were too good. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the general rule of thumb is that for buy-to-let, cheaper properties are best. Now, not the very cheapest. In some areas, the very cheapest properties would be too cheap. You'd be going into areas where you really want to invest because you're probably never going to resell the property should you buy it. That you're probably not going to get great tenants. You don't want to go into the very lowest value areas, but you don't want to go into the best areas. You want to go, there's a sweet spot in between where you want to buy in areas which are cheap and not the best areas. Why is that? Because the return that you're going to get for your money is going to be much greater. And also, there's going to be many, many more people who can afford to be your tenants, which means that there's going to be greater tenant demand. Now, one of the reasons why I like buying properties which aren't that great is because if the property needs a good refurb, if it's a bit down at heel, if it's been neglected, then it's relatively easy to add value to the property by doing a refurb. Typical refurb for me would be new kitchen, new bathroom, maybe new windows if it needs it. Decorating, new carpets, that would be a great refurb. The other reason why a down heel and neglected property could be a good property to buy is because if it has been neglected and if it's not in a great condition, it's that much easier to be able to negotiate what we could call a bargain price, what we could call a below market value price, although that's a very subjective term. We could have a very good debate about what below market value actually means. But let's just say at a bargain price. Because if you can buy the property cheap enough and then you can add the value, then if you can add enough value and push the value of the property up to the right points, then when you refinance it, it's very possible that you can get all or most of your money back out again, meaning you can take the original money that you started with and go and buy another property. So for all of those reasons, that's why I'd rather buy cheaper property than more expensive property. The returns on the more expensive property are going to be lower, and there's going to be less tenants wanting to move in. And if it's a nice property in a nice area, it's probably going to be hard to add value. So all in all, as far as I'm concerned, cheaper properties are the best properties.
Well, I hope you found that informative and inspirational. And if you want help in property, please do come over to my website, www.thepropertyteacher.co.uk. Loads of great resources there, including my blog. There's loads of free videos, loads of great articles. There's free reports to download, including Learning with Peter, where you'll be able to access resources like my video courses, like my ebooks, including my home study course, the Successful Property Investors Strategy Workshop, which I've literally sold thousands of copies of, which takes you through how I started in property, literally with none of my own money, but how I was able to build a portfolio of £2 million worth of property in just 4 years. I'll show you everything that I did right so that you can do the same, and I'll show you everything that I did wrong. I'll tell you about all of my mistakes so that you can avoid them, so that you can progress in property far more quickly than me. Until next time, here's to successful property investing.